I don't think there's ever a public interest in someone's business if they're not harming other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I, as a public, don't have a right to be interested or entitled to somebody's life story if they are not, about to go on some sort of mass killing spree. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Because what they do in their business and behind closed door is their business. I would rather have them said, we want to get this information out because it's going to make us most money. This is what sells. This is what sensationalized. This is what the public want. They like gossip. I would rather you told that than make it sound like you're doing me a favor. Oh, it's in my interest to know that so-and-so's cheating.
But is it straightforward though? So let's say, for example, it's a secretary, an MP, who talks about family values all the time, and they're talking about how we need to get back to the core of family values, and that's why society is the way that it is. And then you find out that they're having various different flings and they're paying for sex with sex workers, and that is that now in the public interest? Because now this is somebody who is on a platform talking about how we should be living our lives, and now they're doing something in their private life. Is it now in the public interest? Because for me, I'm just like, don't be talking to me about what I need to do in my household when you can't run your household. Like, I don't Hi, I'm Sophie Hannah.
I'm Anissa.
And I'm Luanda Yasmin. Welcome to the 18th episode of Ethnically Speaking. We are three smart, curious, opinionated, and highly melanated women here representing the UK. We will be talking about anything and everything affecting our communities, from pop culture to politics and everything in between. So forget tiptoeing around topics and technically speaking, because today we are ethnically speaking. Okay, so Anissa, kick us off.
Okay, so cinema chain Cineworld has recently announced that they are shutting their doors for the foreseeable future due to the impact of COVID-19. Yet cinemas have been experiencing decreasing customer numbers for a period of time now, and this is due to the rise of at-home popular streaming services. So with companies such as Netflix and Disney Plus showing big films that were intended for a summer release in the cinema this year, and with no end in sight of COVID-19, do we think the cinema industry as we know it is dead?
Now, I have kind of mixed views on this. I think, originally I probably would have said that I think that the cinema industry seems to be dying, but I read in a BBC article that every time there's a new invention, people feel like cinema's going to end. So they said when TV came about, TV's going to end. When games came about, cinema's going to end. When streaming came about, cinema's going to end. But I think COVID is really knocking on doors for cinemas ending. And I think that cinemas are either going to have to evolve or die. And I say that with a heavy heart because I love the cinema. I have a Cineworld ticket. Like, I'm like, their card, their premiership card or their membership card. So you get to see as many films. Like, exactly.
Yes.
I have that. And like, this breaks my heart. But streaming services just have so much variety. I just don't see how they're going to maintain if they don't drastically change their model.
My heart breaks because I love the cinema. I really do. And so when I was reading about all of this, I was like, no, please, cinema survive. But then I actually had to think about my relationship with the cinema, because I used to go to the cinema routinely. Like, I went all the time, and I thought, why did that change? And it's of course because of money, because when I was going every week, I was a student, so I got that student discount. And then it was also around the time that Orange Wednesday was happening, so I had the Orange Wednesday on top of the student discount, so it's like one ticket, like 2 tickets for the price of one, but student price on that one ticket, and then me and my friend would split the price. Like, it was pennies. It was pennies, and there was a Tesco down the road, so we'd get the popcorn from there.
Bring the snacks,
well.
Oh my God.
Exactly. So I think that the difference is now, like, I still love to go to the cinema, but it's just not as often because it's not as affordable. And for everyone else, when the price of a cinema ticket is costing relatively the same as the price of a monthly subscription, whereas with the monthly subscription, you're going to get an overload of content, an overwhelming amount amount of films and documentaries and television shows. Like, I understand why people are gravitating away from it a little bit, but I really do believe that, like, watching a movie on your laptop and watching a movie on the television, it's just not going to beat the cinematic experience. But I agree with Sophie, because you said, you know, if you were to reopen, you just have to make some changes. I think people should look at making cinemas more accessible to everyone, because, you know, the price of a cinema ticket gradually rose. And the first time that it dropped was in 2018. In 2018 was the first time that the price of a cinema ticket dropped since 2001. And I'm talking about a 10 pence difference.
But this is the thing. In talking about the price of cinema tickets, I read online that they said the average cinema price ticket is like £7 something. Where on earth are those people going? I don't even know. Because when I go cinema and I go to, like, let's just say I go to a franchise like Odeon or Cineworld, my ticket is easily £11 to £14, let alone if you want to go to one that's kind of independent and has nicer seating and is a bit more niche. Those tickets will easily cost £15, £16. I've paid £20 for a cinema ticket for a film that you can't find through generic cinemas. So if you're looking for like an art house film that isn't going to be shown everywhere, then you have to pay more for that luxury. So it is a very pricey thing, especially when streaming services. I think Disney's like £6 or something like that. You can't beat that.
You can't. I don't think cinema's dead. Do I think it's dying? Yes, but I think I do agree though with you, Luanda and Sophie, about like if cinemas are going to have to evolve, and I think I almost think there's a great opportunity for them to evolve. Like, I think they could come back once COVID is settled. They can come back in this really like niche way of like, oh, going to the cinema. Like, you know, once the hipsters get onto something, it's like, oh, it's so cool, I'm going to the cinema instead of a streaming service.
It's retro.
Yes, it's like, oh, that's so vintage. Like, I'm telling you guys, that is how I think they would win, because it now needs to focus not just on being a movie, but more on, as you guys have spoken about, the experience. Because people will just go for the experience just to feel nostalgic. Like, oh my gosh, do you remember when people used to go to cinema? Like, it will become one of those things. Do I think it'll be as booming as it used to be? Absolutely not. I, like you guys, have such a love relationship with the cinema. I grew up going to the cinema every single weekend, and then sometimes in the weekdays, because I grew up around the corner from Peck&Plex. It was a 30-second walk from my house to Peck&Plex. I used to go to Peck&Plex in my pajamas.
Like
yes, I used to go
in your pajamas.
I used to go in pajamas and get the late night screening. So I'd walk.
I feel like every week I find something new to judge you on.
I mean, I'm not gonna. If you regularly go to Peck&Plex, you can understand why it's okay to get away with pajamas. I'll just leave it at that. And so I go to the Peck&Plex, and this was when I was like 15, 16. The tickets would be £3 all day, every day. So I used to go to the late night viewing in my pajamas, watch the movie, then go home, go to bed, whatever, right? Now the ticket prices have raised to, I think they're $5.99, which is over years, which is fine. But for a cinema ticket, that still I think is quite a reasonable price. And the only reason why I stopped going to the cinema every week was obviously I moved out of Peckham, and I just going to cinema now is so long because they're so far out of the way. But when I did go to cinemas, I did move on to the Cineworld, and I love me some Cineworld. Their snacks are the best cinema snacks I've ever tasted, period. Like the slush, the popcorn, the hot dog, the ice cream, the pick and mix. Beautiful.
You're a ride or die fan for Cineworld. You're a ride or die
Honestly.
fan.
Guys, I go to cinema all the time. I love it. So
me too.
I think I would if the tickets were £5.99 where I was as well. I'm in the £10, £11 scale with Sophie. Like, I have not seen a £5.99 ticket in at least 4 years.
Oh, really?
No.
Well, when I go to Cineworld, obviously it's more expensive at Cineworld, but I'm not even gonna lie to you. I don't even know how much the price is in Cineworld. I can't even tell you, but I know it's more
This is
than
the thing.
$5.99.
Without my membership, I wouldn't be going to the cinema as often as I do, and I'll be going like, religiously every time something's out. And it really made me think about something that Ava DuVernay said. So she was the director on Selma. She did the documentary 13. She did A Wrinkle in Time. Let's forget that one. I'm not going to say anything about that one, but let's just say she's big time. So the point is, she was saying that when she spoke to the everyman on the street about like her films and Selma or about Moonlight, people like, nope, never heard of them, never seen them. And she said that made her think, actually, why is there so much prestige related to the cinema? Because she was just like, if you actually want to get your art out, you need to get it on television, because when it's only a very select few people that see these big massive films that go to the Oscars every year. And it's very true. A lot of these films that win Best Picture don't actually get bums on seats because they're so niche, or they're focusing on specific issues, and most people want to see like Jumanji with The Rock, and they just want a bit of entertainment or something for their children. So she was saying that she's moving away from cinemas now anyway. She's like, I'm going to put my stuff on television like Netflix or there, so it can actually reach people. So do you think that this kind of move away from the cinema that we're going to have in COVID because people aren't going is actually going to help people to actually watch more things?
I think so, but I think it's going to kill TV. And the reason why I say that, I think streaming services are becoming so powerful. Like, I don't know if you saw the other day that they announced that Disney Channel in the UK is stopping. I think it's stopping this month. Because
I think it's so cheeky. I think it's so cheeky.
All because people can get Disney Plus. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? No. I thought being able to click through the channels to get on Disney Channel. Now I've got to have Disney Plus to watch all my Disney fix. It doesn't even make sense. It's not even regular scheduled programming. Besides the point.
I think Disney are blatantly doing it because they're losing all money from all of their Disneyland this, their Disneyland Paris, their Disneyland Florida.
But why would you do this to the children?
Because they're saying Disney makes money by bodies. So we never thought that we were going to have something that was going to stop people going outside or going to theme parks. So what they've had to do is now trying to force everybody onto their streaming network. But I have Disney Plus, and I mean, I don't think it's anything to write about personally. Like I have all the Disney I have all the Marvel films, I have all the things I want to watch. So in terms of subscriptions, I don't personally think Disney is value for money. Whereas Netflix, they're knocking everybody out the park. Amazon Prime is up there. So I think cinemas are really going to struggle, especially when you have someone like Netflix. Netflix is making their own films like Roma or
already nominated for an Oscar.
Exactly, and these are already nominated.
Crazy.
So
and look how
well
Orange
really
is the New Black like routinely would sweep up at the Emmys, you know.
Honestly,
so I see what you're saying, Anissa, about like it might kill television as well.
It might kill television as well. I'm telling you.
It stresses me out because they were saying that when they had to move quite a few things to streaming or like on demand video, so like Trolls and Mulan and all those things, and they realized they can just earn more money this way. And once you realize you can earn more money, then whatever the other thing was, no matter if the people want it or not, they're going to go for that, because they said they will earn 60% of all ticket sales, but 80% of all online distribution sales.
Yeah.
If you're a big money business person, do you think you're going to go for the 60 or the 80? And so that's why I kind of think like they're going to kill. They might willingly kill themselves.
What I think it might do as well is really, and this is something that my husband said, and I was just like, no, I don't agree with it. But then I read an article, I was like, do you know what? He might actually be right. Because
what was it?
As you said, Luanza, cinemas or production companies make their money off of like ticket sales. So let's say for a Marvel film that they put 300 million into it, because they're expecting that they have to make 3 times just to like break even after they've taken in promotion, production, everyone's been paid. But they're saying if this is going to go straight onto TV and they're not going to make money off cinema tickets, what's their incentive for making this really fantastic film with all these great visual arts and all of that? Because look at the Bond film. They have decided now to push that until next year because they're kind of like, we're not going to make our money back, so we're not putting it out there. So this article was saying how what we could see if production companies only start to make films for television is that they're going to make them shorter, they're going to make them louder, and they're going to make them dumber, because they're like, you have to try and keep people's interest. There are people going to want to sit down and watch a 2.5-hour film that's deep with all these films. They said when you got the doorbell going and your children running around and your phone in your hand, they were like, in order to keep people's attention span, it might actually affect the type of films that they have to make. And that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Same.
No, I feel that. But the thing that would give me like a little slivering of hope is, how well films like Marriage Story did
Woo! If I see one more Riverdale,
teen dramas, take the cake.
From which I watch my fair share. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I watch my fair share of teen dramas and my fair share of action movies. I can't lie, but I do like, in terms of what you were saying earlier about Moonlight and things like that. I think I had to actually think as well, when I have gone to the cinema in the recent months, what have I been going to see? And because the tickets on average where I'm at is like £10.50. That's if I like sneak a discount that I don't deserve. So I have to like actually pay attention to like, where am I putting my money? And so I'm going to see all the Black films. Like, I went to see Moonlight. Me and about like no joke, like me and about 10 of my Black friends were like, okay, there's a Black movie. We're gonna throw our money at it. Me and my best friend went to go and see Blue Story as soon as it was out. Like, we're not messing about. We know about the revenue, and we want to help drive that.
Same.
So especially because it's like once in a blue moon that you see Black creators. That Black creators are able to make stories with Black protagonists and things like that. So we're like, when that comes out, like, all of us were in the cinemas for Get Out. My Facebook memories gave me a post of like a couple of years ago where the cinema was like erupted in screams and stuff. But all of them were packed out. Like, everyone that went to see Get Out had some interactive experience. Like, everyone was screaming in those cinemas. Like, everyone loved it. It was amazing.
But this is the thing, that what you're saying, I think, is so key, Lawanda, in terms of, you're saying that you and your friends want to throw money at smaller, like, Black films that might not get it, and they're
saying
that
big
this
Black
is
films.
Big Black films too. But I think
we saw Black Panther as well. Like,
exactly true. But they're saying that it's probably going to be smaller films, not just by Black people, but for people who are just starting out. Or there was a film called Calm with Horses that took 6 years to get made. 6 years to get into the cinema, and because it was coming out this year and it's a small budget film, they didn't have the money to push it because they'd already put out the advertise, and they're like, we have to release it, and they're like, it took 6 years to get out, and the director was like, it breaks my heart because now it's going at a time when hardly anyone's going to the cinema, and it's going to be these small films that actually need our support that are going to be the ones that are going to be affected the most. Because if you're doing Bond film, you can push that, it's going to cost money, but you're just like, actually everyone's going to go see when it comes out anyway, we can take the risk. But someone like Moonlight is something that would be falling into the gap if it came out now.
Yeah, fair.
So what do the cinemas have to do to stay alive?
Listen, first of all, just like scale back the prices, like a solid £5 for a ticket. Bring those days back.
That is definitely not at this point. I think maybe in the future, yes, in terms of COVID, making the tickets cheaper and you're still having less people.
No, I'm talking about after the restrictions are lifted, when you're trying to get people back in bulk. You need to make it accessible for more people, because going to the cinema, like Anissa, you said, like, I used to go all the time growing up. It used to be accessible for everyone. Now it's becoming like a luxury that I can't afford. I'm not happy about that, because I love going. It's now become like I said, it used to be a routine, and now it's a treat. And I think if they want,
this is my thing. How can a man taking you on a date to the cinema and to Nando's be something that's extravagant? This is what I don't get. Because cinemas are so expensive now. It's like, if I'm going to take you out on a date, babe, we're going to stop at the cinema because, if you want snacks.
The snacks, though.
Exactly. And I'm not go to the shop and bring your snacks in. I'm going to buy the snacks in the cinema kind of girl. So you've got to be
bougie kind of girl. You're a bougie kind of girl.
But I want to have a full cinema experience. And there's no full cinema experience without the warm cinema snacks instead of me bringing packaged snacks.
Well, the thing is, though, because I'm a popcorn person, so I like when Butterkiss has long been doing their cinema popcorn, and that's good for me. Like, I won't eat any. I genuinely won't eat any of the brands. I used to when I was a child. But like, I'm all about the popcorn.
Listen,
now.
that large slush puppy with the combo meal. That's my bag.
I will buy a
cinema.
slush puppy. I will do it. I will.
But do you know what the worst thing is for me though? Is I know you talk about treat as a date, but I think even as a family, it's not even a part of a routine now because all my nieces and nephews, whenever I'm like, oh, do you guys want to go to the cinema? They're like, no, like why would I want to be there? Because they've grown up not going to the cinema. They feel like they can watch it at home, and I'm just like, guys, I would have killed if to gone to the cinema as a child. It's really devastating.
Yeah,
Long
that's
live
so
the cinema.
sad.
Long live the cinema.
Long live.
Long live the cinema. Well, considering that we can't save the cinema ourselves, hopefully the cinema will come back, reinvent itself in a brand new way, and get people more bums back in all the seats. Talking about reinventing ourselves, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, otherwise known as Harry and Meghan, have recently won an apology from the US news agency after a drone allegedly took some photos of their son Archie whilst in lockdown. So the agency has agreed to hand over photos, destroy any copies, and also stop distributing the images to media outlets. But the duo are still calling the incident an invasion of their privacy. But do you think celebrities and public figures have a right to their privacy when they choose to be in the public eye?
Yeah, I definitely do. If you're a celebrity or a public figure, you're still a person. And we also need to take into account the fact that some celebrities and some public figures don't actually choose that lifestyle either. Like sometimes people are just born into it. People have parents who are in the entertainment industry. People, sometimes your grandma is the Queen of England. Like it happens. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we are entitled to your private information. But at the same time, I'm aware that it doesn't make the interests of celebrities and public figures, private information go away. Like the interest for the information is still there. But I think that celebrities, because it will always be there, I think celebrities have a right to capitalize on it if they want to. Like they have a right to release a documentary every now and again or a book to give us a sliver of transparency that we so crave. And we should normalize respecting their boundaries. Like what that photographer did to Meghan and Harry was not respecting their boundaries. They'll probably put a picture of Archie on their Instagram in their own time if they haven't already, because I don't follow them, so I don't know. But why I think we're so obsessed with having access to the exact thing that people don't want us to have, because I've seen so many times actresses and models who pose in the nude or they model lingerie, but as soon as someone gets access to a photo that they sent that should only be for their boyfriend, it breaks the internet, because people like to invade other people's privacy. They feel like they have a right to their information because they admire these celebrities, so they want to find ways to relate to them, and they want to just have the information that they aren't sharing. But I don't think it's right.
I think part of it is I don't think they have a right to privacy, yes, but it's partly a trade-off for the job or the role that they have. And I'm not saying that means that you have access to everything. Like Kate Middleton having pictures of her naked breast taken while she's on holiday in France.
You see what I mean?
That's very
Same
different.
with that happened to Jennifer Aniston in her own back garden. It's getting ridiculous.
Talking about that stuff, I think definitely have a right to privacy, but the lives that they live, part of it very much is, or the jobs that they have, let me say, the jobs that they have very much so is about selling themselves in terms of their image, or when they're going out to promote a film. And I think you kind of have to take part of one with the other. That's just the way that it is, because you have a job that is very much in the public eye. And I guess what I struggle with in terms of this is we have people like the Duke and Duchess who are relatively private, apart from when they're talking about their causes. But what about when it comes to celebrities like Kim Kardashian and them lot, who will sell every single piece of their life, every single piece of their body will be shown online? They do all of this, and then when it's something personal, it's just like, oh, but I don't want you to cover that. But I'm just like, you let us see every other thing, and I'm not saying I want to see it, but I think the line gets a bit more grey when someone has made their entry into the world off a sex tape, and then says, I'm going to document my entire life and then I'm going to show you myself naked online. But when it comes to stuff with my husband and his mental breakdown, can I have privacy, please?
But this is exactly why I said like it needs to be on their terms. Like we're not used to respecting people's boundaries. Like if Kim is comfortable like breaking the internet, taking a selfie in a mirror, being naked, let her do that, because that is what she is consenting to do. She's not consenting to us then being like, oh hey man, how's Kanye? Tell us everything, blah, blah, blah. Like even if you have a reality show that's supposed to be showing your life, which obviously is very like, it's a production, so no one, well, people do believe that they're getting an insight, but it's a production, so I'm not dumb enough to think like, oh, I'm reading Kim's diary that's just going to show on the television every, I don't know when the show comes on, but you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I think we need to learn to just like scale back and let them show themselves on their terms. And it's right now it's not happening. I think it's just getting worse and worse.
Well, the thing is, I do think that everyone has their right to privacy, because we're all human beings at the end of the day. Like, you don't have to showcase your life to everyone. But I do agree with Sophie that sometimes the lines get blurred when you're a celebrity and a public figure, especially depending on what you are famous for. Like, for me, if it's very different if you're an actor famous for being a great actress versus being a reality TV star, because I guess for me as an actress, I'd see you as, okay, you were famous for telling other people's stories or other stories, and reality TV, you're famous for telling me your story. So therefore, if I was a fan who had bought into you as a reality TV star and all of a sudden you no longer want to share anything with me, I'd be like, well, wait a minute, I've paid so much money into you telling me about your life, and now you're telling me that I don't get access anymore? That's crazy to me. Like, so that is how I think a lot of people think. I do think, as you said, like as I've said before, that everyone gets their right to privacy. I just think the lines get blurred depending on what you're famous for. If you're famous for giving us most details about your life, or doing an OK magazine spread to say, I once got bit on the knee as a child and this is why I don't like spiders anymore. Like, or you give us all these exposés of things that we don't need to know. So when there's something we want to know, then we feel entitled. There's a sense of entitlement because we feel like we bought into you as a person. So that's why I think the lines get blurred. It depends on what you're famous for me. But I don't want to be in no one's
What
business.
do you guys think about, because I read an article that said most of the time it's like the Z and the X and the Y list celebrities who are willing to like talk, who are willing to like talk about everything and be like, oh, this crazy thing happened, or, put me on camera having a fight with my sister. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like to get the public's attention. But then the A-list celebrities want to be a little bit more private. But most of the time, like, you have to start somewhere. You got to start at the bottom of the alphabet. So what about if you start, you can't skip to A. Like, what
even
about
Beyonce was begging for coverage at one point.
Do you see what I mean? And now she's like, I don't do interviews.
Exactly.
Here's my song. I'm not even telling you when I'm dropping it because I know I'm going to trend on Twitter anyway. So like, what about like when you're starting and you want to do like Z, X, Y, and you want to work yourself up to C, B, and A, you want to have a cutoff point where, maybe, like we said, we just mentioned Beyonce. When she started, she was a teenager. Now she has a family. Like there's other things that you want to keep private as you move along. Like what about people who want to make that transition? Are we not going to let them?
I think that's what makes it so difficult, Lawanda, because the relationship between a celebrity and the media or journalist is a very fine line. So this is where I think some journalists feel over entitled, and some of the entitlement I think they're entitled to. The majority I don't, because the point is, you want to use us when you want to promote something, right? So when you want us to know about your lifestyle brand, Gwyneth Paltrow, and about Goop, then you're more than happy to let us in and talk about your life, or promote your Netflix show that's coming out.
That works for me.
Exactly, it works for them. So and then even Beyonce can be like, okay, she wants a private life, but sometimes she needs a little bit of promotion. She wants to work on Disney. They've got to send the adverts out. She'll do the odd thing, interview here and there. So it is a fine line where the celebrities have to know we may not want them to have all of our lives, but in order to make money, like,
you've got to give them a little something.
Give us an inkling.
We have to have a little. And I think that's where the dividing line is, because I am more than happy. I'm not if I was a celebrity, but someone going to the shop and they're taking a picture, I'm just like, you're a celebrity, deal with it. But when you start to take pictures of people's children, and these people have never put their children out in the public domain, or like you're crossing boundaries onto private property, then I'm kind of like, this is now
Using
an
drones and
invasion.
that.
Yeah, for me,
Yeah.
that's an invasion for me. But some of it goes along with the territory. But that's why I wanted to ask you guys.
Yeah.
They say that the reason why journalists do it because it's in the public interest. Do you think a lot of it actually is in the public interest to see all this stuff of celebrities?
Say that again.
So they will say when journalists, like say for Harry and Meghan,
They're rebranding.
I love it, Meghan.
So when they were taking these pictures, like the whole thing with their dad, well, her dad and the letter, and they're going to court about it, they will say, well, it's in the public interest, you know? They're saying there's a public interest there. And a lot of the times the court have to rule, is there really a public interest there? So when that whole scandal about people having like, in fact, I can't name the names because I don't even know if it was actually named in the UK press, but there was that famous couple who was one of the members in one of the partners was having an open affair, and apparently they were saying it's because they, you know, they were okay with it and they had an open relationship, but they fought so hard to keep it private. And the newspapers were saying there's a public interest because this person is a big celebrity and people want to know, and they're saying, well, no, it's private. So it's kind of like, is there a public interest there or is there not? What do you guys think?
No, I don't think there's ever a public
No.
I don't think there's ever a public interest in someone's business if they're not harming other people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I, as a public, don't have a right to be interested or entitled to somebody's life story if they are not, you know, about to go on some sort of mass killing spree. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Because what they do in their business and behind closed door is their business. I would rather have them said, we want to get this information out because it's going to make us most money. This is what sells. This is what sensationalized. This is what the public want. They like gossip. I would rather you told that than make it sound like you're doing me a favor. Oh, it's in my interest to know that so-and-so's cheating.
But is it straightforward though? So let's say, for example, it's a secretary, an MP, who talks about family values all the time, and they're talking about how we need to get back to the core of family values, and that's why society is the way that it is. And then you find out that they're having various different flings and they're paying for sex with sex workers, and that is that now in the public interest? Because now this is somebody who is on a platform talking about how we should be living our lives, and now they're doing something in their private life. Is it now in the public interest? Because for me, I'm just like, don't be talking to me about what I need to do in my household when you can't run your household. Like, I don't want to hear it.
So this now goes back to what Anissa says. When Anissa was like, I can differentiate between like an actress and a reality star, because a reality star, like, you're profiting off of sharing your life.
So where does the MP fit then? Where does the MP fit?
That's next level, because if we're talking about public interest, you are going to run the country. You have a say in how the country is run. I understand that celebrities, like, they have a big influence on our culture, but with the actual members of parliament, with the people who work in politics, you actually affect the law. You directly affect our lives. Like, you know,
so
we
then they don't
don't
deserve to have a private life then? Their life is up for grabs?
No, private life, yes, but I think that you know, when you said, like, there's a certain level of transparency that's going to come with the gig, I think that fits more to a politician than it does an actress. Because for actresses, you should be able to, like, turn up to the premiere, blow some kisses and go home. With a politician, like, your whole brand needs to actually be what it is. Like you just said, you are affecting my life and telling me what needs to go on in my household, but you need to actually back that up with your own character and your own morals and your own values that fit with the campaigns that you're promoting. So I've been seeing so many politicians that have been, like, getting down on the knee for, like, George Floyd and stuff, and I'm like, can I get a written report of all the black employees, if any?
No, please,
if any.
Not a written report.
How they feel about you and how you acted towards them and how you act towards the little people, because this throwing two fists up on Twitter when I don't actually know how you treat little people. I say little people, not just like people of colour, but anyone who, like, doesn't serve a purpose to them. I don't know how you treat those people in your life, but you want to act like you're here for the, you know, here for the many and not the few. Like, prove to, like, show me. I want receipts.
The written report is too much for me, girl.
Look, I think this is such an interesting thing, because I feel like we do have an over-interest in the lives of celebrities. It is true. But I was reading online how they said... well, escapism, but I read this article and they were saying it's because we work out our own values and morals when we see things happening in the life of a celebrity. So they said, like, for example, do you remember Brad Pitt? You
Yeah.
guys know
Do you remember Brad Pitt? Yeah, he did.
Is he too old for you? Or do you remember? Okay,
No, I
know him, girl. So, Brad Pitt, you know when it was whole that Jen, he was married to Jennifer Aniston, and then he got with Angelina Jolie, and it was just huge. People say we have an interest because it makes us start to think morally, where do I stand? Like, what do I think is okay? Would I do this in my own life? Do you guys agree with that? Because I don't know. I feel like people are just nosy. I
don't need celebrities' drama to question my own moral compass. Like, I know what it is. I don't need Brad Pitt to cheat on his wife for me to think, is infidelity okay? Like, I don't need that. I think that's such a BS angle of people just trying to be like, we're selling the story and you want it because it's a juicy topic. And funny enough that you mentioned, like, oh, is he too old for you? I actually remember that stuff happening and being very, very young. Like, I think even in primary school, because I remember Mr. and Mrs. Smith, like, was such a huge film. Yeah. And remember, like, who was it? Like, Busta Rhymes and someone else did
Gabrielle
like a music
Union.
video.
I remember, it's one of my favourite videos when I was a child.
I love that music video. But like, so that, even like, I remember that being huge for the culture. And then like years later, you've got Nicki Minaj releasing a song with the lyrics, I'm Angelina, you Jennifer. You know what I mean? Like we know the cultural references because it was such a huge moment, but it did nothing for like my character. Do you know what I'm saying?
But
it was just a juicy story.
I will say though, I think I've been guilty of it definitely in the past. When I'm trying to get someone maybe to see my point of view or the reason why I've taken this standpoint or a belief, use something that's going on in the celebrity's life as an example and say, well, look, so and so, like for example, this is just the wildest example, but it's the only one I can remember, right? So I was talking to my friend about being with someone who's saving themselves for marriage or not having sex or being celibate, and how people can do that. A man can do that because he was saying men can't do that, blah blah blah. I'm saying of course men can do it, and so then I gave the example of this older Miami rapper called Trick Daddy Dollars. How Trick Daddy Dollars was in a celibate relationship with this young girl named Nikki, and I said, well, Trick Daddy is doing it because you're telling me real men won't wait when Trick Daddy's waiting, and not because I think Trick Daddy is the moral compass, but it's just because it's like, I know that's a celebrity or somebody that you respect, and I'm trying to tell you that this is possible, so I'm giving you this live example to back my point, and that's the only time I think when I've used a celebrity's life like that.
Do you not think
moral compass?
Do you not think that falls more into representation then? Because I've had these kind of situations where, so I had a white friend, a white male who said something, and I was standing next to a black girl when he said it, and I was just like, when so many things happen, and sometimes you just don't have the energy. So I wasn't even going to say anything. Like, I just did not have the energy to do a whole 2-page monologue on how what he said wasn't okay. I just wanted to carry on with my day. There was going to be more microaggressions at 5 p.m. So I just wanted to keep it moving. But my friend had the energy that day. So she was telling him this and that. What he said wasn't okay. And she was absolutely correct. I just couldn't be bothered. Yeah. And then something that she said made him remember an episode of This Is Us, which is a show that I haven't watched, but he was like, but I genuinely believe that if he hadn't been able to reference a television show in his mind when a white person got checked on their racism, he wouldn't have been as open to hearing what she had to say. And that's like fictional characters. So I think sometimes it's more about representation, because if your friend hadn't seen anybody who was a man be celibate and make it work, then he just maybe wouldn't have been able to fathom it in his mind.
Yeah. No, okay, then representation. Okay, I'll go with that. Okay, the celebrities aren't guiding me.
I think the thing is, a lot of celebrities, they want the perks of the life, but they don't actually want to deal with what comes with it. And in terms of talking about this, in terms of celebrities, what about when it comes to us? Because again, I was reading something and it was saying how when we think about privacy, it's not just celebrities' privacy who's up for grabs now. With all this stuff with cookies and data and all of this, our privacy is now up on the table as well. But they're saying it always comes with a trade-off. So if you want to get a cheaper deal on something, you might have to give your data. For example, this is very true in Tesco. My husband uses his club card, and because now we're shopping online to get it delivered because of COVID, they're saying because you have a club card and you log all of your things and we see what you're buying, we're now going to give you money off because we have your data. And I think now we're getting to a point where it's not just celebrities. Our images might not be up for sale, but our data sure is. So privacy is touching all of us.
I agree.
Oh, girls have got nothing
It is
to say.
petrifying.
So.
It's petrifying.
It's petrifying. And while our ladies are taking a nice little pause, we just want to let you know that we are at the halfway point for our show today. So don't forget to press that like button, press that subscribe button so you don't miss a thing. So today we've been focusing on all things visual. So firstly, we looked at cinemas and whether this visual art form is in jeopardy due to COVID-19 and the rise of streaming services. We then looked at celebrities and if they have a right to protect their visual images and their private life when they have very public-facing jobs. But now I wanted to talk to you ladies about visuals and Her Majesty's Passport Office. So, I don't know if you know, but you can actually order your passport online as well as in the post. But a recent BBC investigation has said that the UK passport photo check-in services is showing a racial bias against dark-skinned women, with this group twice as likely to have their photographs rejected online in comparison to light-skinned or white men. Now, this is not the only example that we have of artificial intelligence or AI showing racial bias. For many of us within our communities, we've worried about people or systematic biases, but now we're starting to see with the rise of AI technologies in everyday life that this problem could just be getting worse and migrating online. So I wanted to know, how and why did machines become racist, if they are, and what, if anything, can we do about it?
Machines can have a bias because they work off the data that humans feed them. So, you know, if you're teaching a machine to recognize a face, you give it a training set of all these different types of faces. But what a lot of the researchers have found is that the faces will be mainly, they'll be very white and they'll be very male by majority. So that
Look
means
at you being
women...
politically correct today, Luanda.
What did I say that was politically correct?
You're just not standing on their neck today. I thought you would just be like, but you're just like the white males.
I'm warming up to it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the data will be very, very white and very male, which means that women and people of color, and therefore especially highly melanated women, will be less easy to read. And like you said, like this can be something as frustrating as trying to upload a passport photo, but actually it can get a little bit more dangerous than that, because I read an article that talks about self-driving cars. And when they tested for the pedestrian acknowledgement in these cars, they found that they were less likely to pick up darker skin. So that just goes into like road safety, you know, in terms of if you have like a car using artificial intelligence trying not to knock people over, and it's not going to pick up brown and dark skinned people. I just think that's a bit ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't have those cars on the road. But
with those cars, though, what I don't understand is, are people really just not thinking about anybody outside of themselves? Like, I read that as well, in terms of like, it wasn't actually tested on any black or brown people. They only tested the motor car or the electric car on white people. I'm like, what are we thinking here? That we only live in a world of white people?
Yeah, for real.
It just baffles me. It just, honestly.
Yeah. But actually, some people found they realized in terms of, I don't remember if this was in terms of facial recognition or in terms of, well, actually, they're both facial recognition. So they realized that it was less likely to pick up black and brown faces, and they were like, it's good enough. Like, so the problem was actually recognized and dismissed for the time being. Yeah, exactly. And it actually, in terms of artificial intelligence having bias, it actually falls into words as well, because there's a machine learning system, machine training system that is kind of like, it's kind of like word association
Okay.
or like predicted text, like, you know, when you're writing an email and it kind of like writes it for you. So
Yeah.
basically the computers have learned to what did I already say, word association? Yeah, I did.
Yes.
The
Yeah, you
computers
did, you
have they've learned to associate certain words with certain other words, and what that has meant for us is that European names have been associated with positive words and
Oh.
African names have been associated with negative words. So when you're applying for jobs online and the machines are filtering CVs, you're actually more likely to be called into an interview if you have a European sounding name. And we know as black and brown people already that there were already humans that were physically holding your CV, seeing that it said Sanjay and not Sam, and throwing it in the bin. And so now it's translating onto the computers, because like I said, if there is a fault in the machine, the fault lies within the humans, because the humans are making the machine, you know?
And I think, I just want to come in and talk about that CV thing really quickly, because when I was reading about this, honestly, guys, I was scared to death, because as a society, and I've said it before, we trust machines and systems so much more. So when we've talked about racial biases before in terms of jobs, we're saying you need to put systems in place and you need to have something that's checking CVs so that you can take out the bias and they're not looking at names. But the whole point is these systems are now biased because the people who are putting them together, not saying that they're racist, but they might have a bias that they're not even aware of. And now we're trying to say, let the systems check the CVs, let the system check who should get housing, let the system check who should get medical care, let the system check who should be released from prison. But these systems are being created by people who have racial biases. It just makes me very scared for where we're going, because not only now, people are going to be like, well, it's completely fair that you didn't get the job because the system, which is impartial.
It was a computer.
Decided that. Exactly.
Computer
And that's
said
why,
no, not my fault.
exactly. So that's why I think this is such a scary thing that is happening.
I think it's very scary. I'm not 100% truster of techie, because, you know, technology has failed me way too many times, and algorithms I've seen do some very crazy things. I'm not even just talking on Instagram, just some wild things, just like, this just doesn't even make any sense. So I think, what do we do about it? It's kind of like what you said, Sophie, like, even though there's lots of systems, there's somebody at the ground level making that system. And so the person who is putting that system together, I think that's where we have to think, okay, I know we say it all the time, but where diversity has to come into play, and that people at that level have to be diverse, or even thinking diversity without an unconscious bias, so that they can get all the data that covers everyone. Now, I want to tell a little story. I can't say for sure if this technology was being racist to me or if it was a racial bias, but it was very weird. And I remember noting this down, saying it was weird, full stop. A couple of years ago, as I said on the show, I was in Japan for some time. And now Japan is like the vending machine capital. There are vending machines everywhere, and it's like, it's not even like as frequent as corner shops. It's more than corner shops. You can be in the suburb areas, and literally at the end of a drive there's a vending machine. The vending machine has everything from toothbrushes to hot chocolates in cans and noodles, and you can get everything you need in the vending machine. It's just everywhere. So I got used to using all the vending machines because I could get everything I wanted. It was cool. I was at the train station, and there was this vending machine. It was a drink vending machine, but it was a vending machine that would choose the drink based on your face. So what it did was it would scan your face, and then it would recommend what drink you should have from the vending machine depending on what you looked like, right?
What on earth was it basing that on?
I don't know. It just scanned your face. So I was there with another colleague who was a person. Yes, I was there with another colleague who was a person of colour, but was very fair-skinned compared to me. So he did it first, and he just got like some regular like green energy drink. So I was thinking, okay, it's my time. I rock up there, get my scan, and it offered me this. It was like a very dark brown colour, and it was called a red bean drink, and then it was like some other kind of dark coffee thing, but both of the drinks were the darkest drinks in the actual vending machine. And I thought to myself, none of what I think my face is serving is red bean or coffee. So I was confused as to why I was recommended those drinks. So I remember saying, well, this was that was weird. That was weird. And so
I think that was definitely down to race.
Yes. So 100%. Now that we started thinking about technology and racial bias, I thought to myself, you know what?
I think that was definitely what happened to me and the face scanning vending machine. Lo and behold, I decided to choose a lemon drink and bypass all the
Well, do you know what,
recommendations.
Anissa? I'm glad you were able to override that system, because that
Yes,
sounded like
you-
it was going to end very sadly.
Did you have to get a white friend to select it for you?
No, you can either choose their recommendations once they've scanned you, or you get to choose your own
Sarah,
drink. So I choose the lemon.
Sarah,
I'm close.
oh my days. Look, I feel like the thing is,
That was
we
weird.
can laugh about these things that happened in Japan because that is funny and it's an entertaining story. But when you think about these facial recognition systems are being used on streets at the moment to identify people, and they're saying that the rates at which, was it 98%, no, 93% of the technology that they're using at the moment to recognize faces by the Metropolitan Police, is 90% incorrect. The facial recognition system, 93% of it is incorrect. And this guy was writing in The Guardian.
Why
He was
are
like,
we
we
using
need to
something that's
stop.
93%
Exactly.
incorrect?
He was like, we need to stop it
Who
all.
signed off on this?
Exactly. And he was saying, this is ridiculous. Like, we need to stop this right now, because the point is, these machines, they said some of them can't even pick up dark-skinned faces. And I was they were saying that they want to use some of these bots. So, you know, when they have drones that will go and like kill people in other countries, or they say, oh, it's going to kill the terrorists. They were saying the AIs that they're using can pick up a white face or a white person's face within 1% if they have no beard. Think about that. So they're saying, we're trying to catch people. And in The Guardian, he specifically said, so if it's picking up a white person with no beard, up to 1%, if it's someone with darker skin, which they know they can't pick up that well, and these people have beards because of their culture, and we're now saying we're going to send over some AI to go and kill them because they're a terrorist, they're like, how do we even know we're getting the right person? And for me, again, it's just scary because Silicon Valley, they're saying Silicon Valley is the tech innovation center of the world. And they said, I think in 2016, they did a study and they said, out of all of the companies, none of them had black women hired. Three of them didn't have black people whatsoever. And these people are leading tech and AI innovation, but they don't have anybody diverse on their team. And where are we all going? Like, what is this going to mean for our black communities? I can tell you, I'm extremely worried about it, because they're saying we are they said in the future, they're saying like 93% of transactions, human transactions, are going to be AI based. It's going to be AI underneath running the systems. So, and this
I'm not ready for that Black Mirror episode.
So what then?
I think an important thing to like note as well, because you know we just talked about vending machines that can recognize our face, and we talked about self-driving cars and all that, and it makes it seem a little bit futuristic, a little bit rare, when if the reality is that if you use technology, you are most likely using artificial intelligence every 100%. Single day. Like when you log onto Facebook and you see those same 7 friends, even though you've technically accepted friend requests from hundreds of people, but you'll see them save 7 people. If you use Siri, them algorithms. If you use Siri or Alexa or Google Maps or banking, because they will keep track of your transactions and, you know, message you if something looks suspicious. I had a friend who got a message from her bank because she spent money for the first time in a really long time. And they were like, this doesn't add up. But even when it comes to shopping, because, you know, obviously they keep track of the things that we like, and they keep track of the things that people like us like, and people in our area like. Amazon, this is so interesting to me. Amazon have actually gotten so confident that they're doing something called anticipatory shipping, where they predict the things that you will buy in the future and ship them to your area in anticipation of you getting them in a couple of months or a couple of years. And it's been working. Gosh. Like, that. Do you know what? Is petrifying to me.
If you guys have watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, what's The Social Dilemma? Because it talks about the fact that they're like, if you feel like you're running your life, if you think that you're buying the things that you're buying without some sort of suggestion, they're like, you are extremely wrong. Like, these systems are getting it within like, if you have a phone, they're collecting all your data. They're like, if you're using a chess game on your phone, they went, it's AI. They're like, so when you're using voice recognition, it's AI. So people need to think like, oh, I don't sign up to things and I don't click on cookies. No, bruv, we're on the grid. We're all on the brink.
This is very scary,
And
frightening.
we need to be
even.
thinking about how this is affecting our lives. But I looked on Vox.com, and they were talking about various things that we can do in terms of to better this kind of trajectory that we seem to be heading down. So as Anissa said, they were
Okay.
saying, number one, very much we need to have more diverse people in the room. Also, we need to collect wider data. So they're saying all AI information has to be trained. They have to input data. And they're saying one of the issues that we're having at the moment is that you can only have data in the past. It's never current data. It's always fed old data. So what we need to be doing now is collecting much more diverse data for future AI systems so they have something to run it up against. Also, they were saying that we need to start thinking about AI as not just something that you teach people in science. So saying if you're looking at like tech companies like MIT in America, they very much have the people doing the science degree or computer science learning how to do AI. But they were saying it needs to be spreading over to humanities, to psychology, to business, to all these other areas so we can think holistically about how do we now have AI that is working on all these different levels. If it's going to be doing things in terms of our psychology, how do we do that ethically? How do we do that morally? How does it work in humanities? Not just seeing it as something science-based. And something that really stood out to me as well, I know I'm saying a lot, but I feel very passionate about this, guys.
Go ahead.
Not letting,
Honestly.
not letting AI make social and ethical decisions, because they're like, an AI system can work out the rate at which someone is probably likely to reoffend. They said they can do that based on like a prisoner. But what it can't do is say whether this person now deserves to be let free based on maybe changing their life around. It just works on inputted data of thousands of other people who have probably committed similar crimes and come from similar areas and are of a similar race. But it can't actually make an ethical, moral decision based on this person and how they might have changed their life around. And when we start to use AI to make human decisions, it can make reasonable decisions, but it can't make decisions based on an actual living, breathing organism. They're like, we need to have people coming back into the mix of this. And
Yes.
guys, honestly, like I just
This
feel
is
I
what
worry
Will Smith-
sometimes about where our world is
as human
going.
beings. We're so complex as human beings. I hate that AI is. I just hate that like it's taking over because I find with things like AI and technology stuff, it's so black and white. But humans, we live in the grey area, baby.
Yes.
That's what we do.
So true.
What? Yeah, we do. We do. And they're saying this is...
It's controlling our lives.
It's
Well, they're
so
saying
true.
that's
I
one of
was
the
going to
issues
say,
with-
this is why Will Smith was pressed in iRobot when the robot saved the little girl instead of him, remember? Do you
No,
remember?
saved him instead of the little girl.
Robot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
it
didn't
saved
watch
him
iRobot?
instead of the little
great
girl.
film. It's a great film. You should watch it. It's gonna. Is it even Sophie? Is that film set in 2010 or 2020 or? I feel like it's film set in 2010.
No, it's
or
a lot
something.
further in the future, I'm sure.
Are you
No,
sure?
you're actually being serious. No, it's set
I don't know.
It's set much further. Anissa,
Are you sure? Because
Luanda,
already
please
passed
don't.
iRobot.
We already passed the Back to the Future date. That already
We have
happened.
passed
Are you
that.
sure
But that was
iRobot-
made like 30, 40 years ago. So no, we have definitely not
I just
passed
watch rom-coms.
I guess the point I'm making is, guys, these AIs were made in labs. They were made in perfect scenarios with some men inputting data. And as Anissa said, they weren't actually made for the complexities of real life. So we need to start rolling it back and putting it through some very, very thorough testing systems, not doing it against, it's tested on 2,000 people. You need to be doing it in the Guardian article said against hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions of people. So you can actually get enough data to be doing AI intelligence or predictions for a world which has like 8 billion people. Man. Okay. Guys, I've got to move on because I could talk to you about this all day. But I want to talk to you about something else which we have no control over. US President Donald Trump, who was said to be tested positive for COVID-19. Imagine the hoax. He was tested positive for it. And of course, the Twitter sphere went completely wild with theories. People were saying that he was feigning illness just to kind of get out of his debates with rival Joe Biden and out of the upcoming US presidential election. But it got me thinking, ladies, what is the worst thing that you have said or done to get out of, let's say, A, work, B, a family event, or C, a date with someone you weren't interested in?
I know you got some stories, Anissa.
No, I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't. I'd like to say typically I'm quite a straight shooter. I mean, have I taken days off work when I haven't been physically ill? Yes, but that's maybe because I just was mentally overwhelmed, and you can't like call your job up and say, hey, I'm having a bad mental health day. You just have to be like, I've got diarrhea. Do you know what I mean? So that's not really far-fetched, you know, it's a purging of different sorts. Anyway, so I think the worst, I just don't think I've done anything. The only thing that could come to my mind when I was thinking about this is probably when I was 14. And once again, I was a child even. I think I was dating this boy, but it's not even really serious. You're 14, do you know what I mean? But I think I wanted to start dating another boy, but I had to wrap this situation up because I think the other boy knew that was my current boy.
I have a appointment in 10, so we gotta wrap it up.
I just wanted to wrap it up. So I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I really need to get out of this. And I'm trying to get out of it, but the guy really wasn't trying to let me get out of it. So I remember just saying to him, like, look, I just have some serious family drama that's not letting me allowed to be in this relationship anymore, so I cannot be with you. And so that was literally what I did. Obviously, he found out I was lying because I'm pretty sure it had to be within hours or maybe days that I then got with the other guy. I was quite public about it. So then I remember him being upset. It was a whole thing. So that was that. But I was 14, so it's not really too bad. I just said I had and I kept it ambiguous. I said family drama because I didn't want to wish anything bad on my family. So that had to be it.
You know what you just said about like, oh, I can't call it work when I'm mentally overwhelmed.
I can't call it
so
sick.
like but like I have done that, and I don't really lie. Like I usually just like psych myself up for the uncomfortable conversations in terms of like knocking people off for like brushing people off for dates, and things like like I don't make elaborate excuses. I'd rather just be like, okay, I don't like you. You know what I mean? Like, just psych yourself.
I agree with you. I agree.
Also,
just be straight. Yep.
Yeah, because if you like someone or if someone likes you and you give them an excuse or you get an excuse, your mind will move mountains to overcome the obstacle that they have put in between you, or that you have put in between them.
True.
Yeah, if you really like them, you will just move the obstacle in your mind like it is fine. And so I feel like you should just give people straight answers, like. And so, you know what I mean? So I do that a lot in terms of dating, but I think there was one scenario in work when I was very mentally overwhelmed, like you said, and I knew that I couldn't go to work, and I had that scenario where, you know, you have that feeling where something like really bad is going to happen, and I just felt like I can't leave my house, like I can't do it. But I didn't also, again, I guess I bended the truth because I didn't say like I need to stay in bed. I just kind of said I'm not feeling well. But because the job that I was working at wasn't like a 9-to-5 job, like the shifts were all scattered throughout the week. So it was at a time where I really wasn't paying attention to days of the week. And I'm a social butterfly. And you know, on the phone they were being really arsey with me, and they were being like, you're sick. What's wrong with you? Bear in mind, I'd already worked for the company for about a year and never had a sick day once, never been late. I'm just, you know what I mean? Like I'm that kind of worker. And so I felt very disrespected because like it literally was the first time that I was calling in to cancel a shift. And I felt like absolute crap, just trying to find a family friendly word. And then I realized like, why are they being so mean to me? And I realized it was Sunday, and so they just thought I was hungover, and so they were like, "Oh, you're not coming into work, Luanda, on this Sunday morning, is it? Interesting." So, but I was genuinely like, I've never called in sick before. Why are they treating me like this? And it was because my closest friend at work went out, and we're just always together. Like we were always partying together, always. So they thought... And so they saw her story. She was at the club, and they just presumed, even if she didn't catch me in the shop, like I must have been with her, which I wasn't. I was in bed being sad, and I missed one shift out of all the times that, you know what I mean? I was working full time, so it was just a bit ridiculous, to be honest. But yeah,
I mean, I don't think
calling in sad should be a thing.
Do you know what?
Calling
Okay,
in
I'll
on
start
mental
there.
health days, honestly, I'm
Do
telling
you know
you.
what? I'll start. Let me start there. I read this this woman who wrote a tweet, and she was saying that she called into her office and she said, "I'm having a bad mental health day. I'm taking the day off," and her boss congratulated her on it because they're saying that we
Wow.
do need to be taking this
What
more
a
into
rarity.
consideration about how draining life is in general. And this was before COVID. Like sometimes your mind can't really take what's going on. Sometimes things take an emotional and a mental toll, but it actually speaks to how we don't actually recognize mental health things because you're just like, well, your body's fine, so you can pick up and walk yourself in. It doesn't matter if you're sad.
Here we
but they're like,
go.
well, actually, my mind being unwell is actually a bigger thing than my body being
100%.
unwell. So we definitely need to start thinking about that. I think in terms of guys, one time I did have a friend call me and ring me out of a date because I'd gone on this date by accident. So
Oh my gosh.
this guy, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Went
I was
on
at
a
this
date by
event.
I don't know.
accident.
I don't get the date
Like,
by accident.
Talk us
Yeah.
through it.
Okay, so I was doing some writing for this online publication, and we were at this trainer event, and they were like releasing this new shoe. So they were like, just go to the event and write about it. This white guy came and was just chatting to me.
Okay.
Chatting. I was just chatting away to him, blah, 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 blah. And then he asked for my business card. I was like, yeah, cool, no problem. I didn't actually realize he was chatting me up because I had just assumed that I wasn't attractive to white men. So it completely
That's
caught
so
me off
sad and
guard.
so funny at the same time.
I was just kind of like, so when he asked and then he asked for my number, I was just like,
For what?
What's going on here? And then my black male friends came over and they were busting up and they were just like, what? I was just like, my guards were completely down. I was just chatting like it was a brethren because I was just like, he's not interested in me. I was just like, it's not going to happen. So then I felt bad about this whole thing. And so I went on a date with him. But I was like, I'm not going to, but he was balding. He was
balding?
Yeah.
Want a little milk in his coat.
No guilt dates. No guilt dates.
I went on the date and literally
you tell him you're not for me. You
After
just
that,
backed me. So you just back case. You just back case.
I'm telling you, this was years ago, and I hadn't strapped on a full pair yet, obviously. So I said to my friend, look, about 35 minutes in, you call me and you tell me that something bad has happened. And she was like, okay, no problem. So we're on the date. Do you know what the sad thing is? I actually started to enjoy the date, and then my friend called me, and I'm like, well, I've come this far. We've already set up the scenario.
Oh, no.
So she picked up. I was like, what? Something bad has happened? Oh my gosh. I was like, I have to go right now. Like, oh my gosh, my friend has fallen down. And literally, I think he could hear her laughing. She was laughing her head off because, guys, I studied drama. I was giving it the full welly of just pain and worry. It was a mess.
Performance.
But it was Oscar winning. So after that, I then saw him at some next event with some next black woman. I'm like, he got his queen. He's happy. So, but in general,
milk and coffee, honey.
I'm not here for it. Like, because that's what I want to ask you guys. I read in this article and it was talking about some of the worst excuses people have used to kind of get away from dates and things. And one girl was saying how she said, "Oh, I'm not into guys." When they try and chat her up, she's like, "I'm into women," and she's like, "It's a really nice way to let guys down." Like, would you ever lie in order to let a guy down easy?
Have done in the past. Do you want to?
No,
you go.
No,
I was going to say, I have done in the past, but I've made it a rule as of lately not to. And the only reason why I did it in the past was not because I was trying to spare their feelings, is because they could not take no for an answer, but I had to then become so.
What would you say?
I would tell you. I would say the most outlandish thing, because if I said no, and you still don't even care a word of what I'm saying to you, I had to be extremely outlandish. So I used to say, listen, let me be extremely clear, right? Yes, I do have a man, but he's in prison right now and he's getting out next week. So what I don't really want to do is get you involved in this, because also we have a child that's 2 years old, and so I've got a whole family to think about. And I say to him, not unless yes, you're willing to help me look after the child. And no man is really willing to help you look after the child if you've got a prison baby daddy. So they used to be, so then that would be the only way it would get off my back, right? And then after that, do you know how ridiculous it has to be to keep feeding this story about this prison baby father that you have? And so after that, I thought to myself, no.
days.
So I'm going to stand here and say no with you 100 times until you understand when someone says no, it just means no. Because that's when I used to do. I used to give you wild excuses, but now it's like, I want you, bro, to understand what no means. And I'm not even sparing your feelings because you can't even understand the concept of no. So that's me. But yeah.
Yeah.
So were any of those guys confused when they've never seen you with a baby, Anissa?
My baby, my prison baby daddy.
Yeah. Was no one worried when they never saw this child?
Well, no, I'd say one, that the baby father doesn't like the pictures of the child on social media, so I don't have it because his ops could be watching.
That's a valid reason.
You were deep in this story. Yes,
I've been in the story about the visits and the prison. Don't get me started, please, Luanda.
Yes, girl.
Well, like, funnily enough, I was going to say something very, very similar to what you just said. Like, I used to do it when I was younger and when I was like underage in clubs and stuff, because we just had to ward off a lot of men. So if I went with like my one female friend and we didn't like the ones that approached us, we'd just say that we were gay. But the reason why I don't do it anymore is because every woman uses that excuse, and so all the men know that it's BS, and so they still keep trying it on with you anyway. And then also because
they see it as a turn off.
They don't.
They don't see it as a turn. They don't see it as a turn off.
They don't take it as real.
Yeah,
they don't value.
It's so true. It's like, it's either like challenge accepted or it's like make out for us. Then there's just so much going on, and I don't want it to ever be like a performance. So it just gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
And like Anissa said, like people just need to understand that no means no. So there are people so I've just tried to be like fair but firm with people when people, and especially be like drunk men that come on to you too strong and they're over and over again and they keep saying the same things, that you're not interested. So I just have to be like, no thank you, no, I'm not interested. Or if they approached you respectfully, I'm like, thank you for being respectful, but I'm not interested, you know? And I feel bad, but it just has to be said, like, I'm just not interested. Yeah. I'm allowed to not be interested. I don't need to have a boyfriend.
Thank you,
to not be attracted to men. I am not interested in you. Leave me alone. And a lot of the time it results in harassment, to be completely honest, because they don't understand that you have like the right to your own body. So that they get confused and they get angry and they get aggressive.
Or that tide of line, you're ugly anyway. Am I ugly
but
anyway?
You've been checking for me.
Exactly.
So
yes. I'm ugly, but you're the one newly pressed next to your breath next to me.
So like, that's weak. That is such a weak response. We all know you don't feel that way, sir. Like, stop lying to me.
Do you know what I do as well? If my male friends are around, I will just literally say, well, that's my boyfriend right there, so he's going to have a problem. But I hate even having to do that because then I have to be close to my male friend, like...
Yeah, but then that's the thing of them respecting another man more than they respect your own personal choice.
Very true.
Just to reject
it's that male,
honestly,
energy.
I'm telling you,
energy is true.
I'm just not here for it. And especially if you're dressed, it's if you're going to the club and you're dressed up, they kind of treat you like, well, didn't you want attention with that tube top?
I hated that when I used to go out, honestly.
You laid your edges, isn't that what you came here for?
Well, who did you dress for then? Myself.
The one I always get is, well, if you didn't want to dance with a man, why did you come out your house? Because I didn't realise the club told me that I'd have to dance with a man just so I could get let in.
That wasn't on the terms and conditions of my ticket.
I didn't realise it was the blueprint. That's my worst one.
That's so bad. That's so
But girls, I wanted to know, like, so, you know when, like, I tell you about what happened to me, let me bring it back to when I was at work. I used to work for the NHS. And one time I rang up and said I had an upset stomach. And they were just like, we're probably going to have to ask you to take a sample so that we can test it to make sure. Because the person on the phone honestly thought I was lying. And I was like, I'm not lying. I have an upset stomach. But they were just going some whole nother level of checking. But if somebody lies about being sick, you know, like some people have been fired for this. Like, do you think that's fair?
I think it depends on the consistency of it, because some people, they have a job out of necessity and not out of desire, which is, you know, most of us, but a lot of us respects the work enough to turn up and do it well. But some people, they just get to the point where they can't be bothered. They don't care if they let the team down. Like I've worked in a lot of teams where like the structure of how the day is planned will be like exploded by one person being late or one person. Do you know what I mean? So I think if you consistently don't care about the work environment and your colleagues and stuff like that, then fair enough. But like we all established, sometimes you can't actually be honest, because I couldn't have called in and just been like,
100%.
I am too sad to move from my bed. I can't come in. They would have then. I don't want to then see you next week if I've managed to feel better and you sit me down and pretend like you care about my problems. Like I don't need it. I'd rather just tell you that I'm. You know what I mean? And if I say I'm unwell, it's not actually a lie, because I am. But there's other scenarios where, you know, if you have to be there for your family or things come up and they're going to see you as unreliable. So I don't know, it's difficult.
I don't think you should get fired for it. I'm with Luanda. I think it just depends on how many days off you take and how many lies you tell. That's when it becomes the issue. Because a little here and there, and sometimes it's not even sick. Like maybe sometimes like, you know, your boo has called you on a spontaneous one, like, let's go do something today. You're thinking, I got work. Okay, let's just sack off work and let's just go do this. That's like a spontaneous thing that you could do.
Yes, Anissa.
Those little things you could do is like, okay, I'm not going to fire anybody over that. But if every single week you're calling and lying, you don't want the job.
It gets too much.
Fire them.
And do you know what? I was reading a Business Insider article, and to be honest, I've never had to fake a sick day, not really, and especially not with the company that I work for, because they were saying when you have an organization that's much more flexible in terms of they're much more about your productivity than your physical presence, then you can allow people to, you know, have a sudden doctor's appointment or to be sick on a day, because you're like, actually, I'm more concerned with your work output rather than your physical bum on the seat. And I really hope that organizations start to move in that way, because people should be able to take a spur of the moment day off, because you're like, the company's not going to fall apart. And if you are more flexible with how people work, you're much more likely to get the best out of them.
Yeah, I think that was another reason why when I did call in sick and they were rude to me, why I was so offended, because I know as a worker that I was twice as productive as any other member of my team. Like I know that when I'm present, and like I said, I hadn't had a sick day, I hadn't been late, I'm always there. Like when I'm present, I'm doing most of the work, even if I'm working in a team of 5 on that day. Like I'm carrying most of the work. So I'm like, you really can't allow me? Like I just need to cry into my pillowcase. You really can't allow me to do this.
You're a vital member of the team. You're a vital member of the team. They just needed your help. That's all they needed.
But my thing is like, if you're going to lie, think up a good lie. I read about this guy that said I can't because my wife caught me cheating and threw everything in the dumpster, and now I have to fix it.
That's a good one, Sophie.
You just need to. Know. That's too much information to give to your employer. You just need to say, I'm feeling unwell today. If that was the real story, you just need to lie.
That's why I stick with diarrhea, because there's been too many times when I've had a genuine like throat infection or a cold, and they're like, you can still come to work, you just don't have to talk. And I'm like, no, I'm not well. And so that's why I stuck with diarrhea, because it was like, I can't travel if I need to poop every minute. So then they know that we can't move.
You know, I was sitting next to a guy when I was traveling, and he called into the job centre like, I can't come in today, I have really bad diarrhea, I'm on the toilet right now, it's going everywhere. And I was thinking, we're on our way to... Okay,
is what it is, girl.
All right. Yeah. And on the note of the runs, that brings us to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for watching another episode. We have. It was right there. It was right there.
Please, I can't.
Ethnically Speaking, episode 18 has run its course. Thank you so much for watching and listening to another episode. We hope you have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed talking. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss a thing. And let's keep the conversation going. What is the craziest thing you've said or done to get out of a date? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want even more from us, don't forget to subscribe to our mailing list so that you can catch Extra Ethnic. This is a new segment that is exclusive to the email list. The description is in the link below. And if you also want to see a summary of everything that we've talked about today, head on over to unitedmelaningroup.com/ES018. Stay safe and stay alert.